system unfolding. Military science fiction podcast. Untold stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We may have a late edition of Jeff, a Jeff sighting, so we're hoping. And if Jeff does make it, we're all going to act like he was always here, okay? He'll just slide in, and it'll be fine. So today we're talking about Accidental Astronaut because Rick has a new series launching, which is very exciting. And while it's, well, I don't know, Rick, I should just let you describe it because I think it's military SF adjacent, right? But why don't we start with that, and we'll talk about how you put it together.
The baseline of this series, it's a modern retelling of Flash Gordon. And the Flash Gordon-esque character, whose name is Jack Schaefer, is a recently retired, not like retired 20 years, but more like 10 years retired, Night Stalker, Task Force 160 helicopter pilot, little bird pilot, who's now a bush pilot in Alaska. And he gets shanghaied onto a secret mission to stop a rogue planet from devastating Earth.
So like a rogue planet, like Planet X, that's like coming around in an orbit?
Well, it's at first they think it's like a Planet X that's coming in on a elliptical orbit, but what it turns out is that it is a self-propelled planet that is guided by an intelligence.
I love the idea of that, like the whole Planet X thing, or that there could be rogue, dark planets floating around out there outside solar systems. So it shows up. Is he, I mean, would you say, does he get caught up in a battle then, or what's the adventure that he's going to get caught up into?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but basically there is a couple of scientists who know what's coming, but nobody believes them. And they have found a wrecked spaceship from the last time this planet came around and devastated Earth, which is 10,000 years ago, just before the Younger Dryas, which was caused by this planet. The government won't believe them, so they fix up this spaceship themselves, and they're going to meet the planet to try to prevent it from devastating Earth, but they need somebody to take care of them, be a soldier, to be a guardian for them, because they're both pretty much, scientists who spent their whole lives devoted to their craft and don't have any military experience. So
they are not Gordon Freeman from Half-Life.
No.
Did you ever play Half-Life?
No, but I know who Gordon Freeman is, though.
I wish you had.
But so they need a soldier. They need a guardian. So they come up with this pretty cockamamie plan to lure a recently retired Medal of Honor winning Navy SEAL to Alaska, where the spaceship is located, with a fake contest where he thinks he won a guided fly fishing tour of the interior of Alaska, flying in on a float plane. And they're going to kidnap him and take him with them. And they accidentally kidnap his pilot. So Jack Schaefer is a military pilot, but he's not a commando, and he's definitely not doesn't consider himself an action hero. So it's an interesting situation for him.
So Jeff, you're jumping in as we're talking about Rick's new book, Accidental Astronaut. And I think the big question right now is how many secret spaceships are hidden in Alaska? Because you are our Alaska expert. Is that a thing that I can find if I go to Alaska?
Alaska is something like 4.5 million square kilometers. So a lot.
A lot? Yeah.
Yes, but nobody knows what a kilometer is.
275,000 square miles. How's that?
There we go. I think that most of the hidden spaceships are probably in either Antarctica or South America, because the aliens practically own South America. That's what I've heard.
all around the meteor strike point.
Yeah.
So
I think the chances of finding a spaceship hidden somewhere are about the same chances of finding Bigfoot. Because once everybody had digital, high definition digital cameras in their pocket, all of a sudden all those sightings kind of went away.
mhm.
Funny how that works.
I'm pretty excited about LiDAR though, as they're like working through like various jungles and whatnot, like that. Who knows
Finding
where we'll
that
find?
hidden city down there in South America, that was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I
And the
know.
hidden,
It's not that they haven't found Bigfoots. They haven't found Bigfoot yet, T.
Bigfoot is smarter than we give him credit for.
Hmm.
So you're saying that this was inspired by Flash Gordon. I think maybe some of the viewers might not be familiar with Flash Gordon. Can you give us a little background and what you,
shame.
I know,
Well, they
what
should
you
be.
liked? I mean, my entry, I know the movie. I don't know anything deeper than the movie. So,
Well, Flash Gordon was originally a comic strip back in the 1930s, I want to say.
mhm.
And then it went from there to movie serials.
Cartoons.
No, it went to movie serial, live action movie serials first, um,
I don't,
where they would have like a 10-minute or 15-minute thing before a movie uh, with very, very crude special effects and Doctor Who level costumes. Uh, and then it went from there to a cartoon series, I think in the 70s, late
I
70s.
do remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And that honestly, for me as a kid, that was I love that series. I mean, it was really campy and cheesy, but this is the Star Wars times, and you took science fiction where you could get it. And from there, they had the 1980
Where's that? You're
1980
missing the
movie.
TV show.
Pardon?
There was a TV show in the 50s.
There was. Well, there
Oh
was a
yeah,
recent one too. There was like a
yeah. Then
90s,
there
early
there has
2000s.
been one in the 90s, but I was trying
Man,
to
I
go
thought that
chronological
cartoon
order.
was way older than it was. My bad. I
No,
thought that cartoon was like
it was
from the
70s.
40s or something because it was but it was from 79 to 80 something.
Yeah. So, and then there's the movie, which is what most people remember is the really campy, cheesy, in my opinion, kind of horrible 1980 movie.
I mean, it wasn't
And
great.
it had a great soundtrack. Uh, and honestly, I've wanted and there's another version of Flash Gordon that most people have never heard of, and that is around 1980 something after the movie. Somebody put out a series of six science fiction novels with a Flash Gordon, and they kind of made it a less campy, less cliched space opera, kind of grim in a lot of ways. Space opera where a lot of people died. It's pretty heavy,
Hmm.
um, and I loved that series when I was younger. So from that point on, I kind of wanted to write my own. I never did, and then Jeff had an idea for a modern day take on Buck Rogers. And when he said that, I'm like, I should do a modern day take on Flash Gordon with the serial numbers filed off. Although I think at this point it's public domain anyway. But I didn't want to do like Flash Gordon and Dr. Zarkov and all that. I wanted to just take that kind of a classic serial, uh, you know, cartoon level type thing and make it something.
Put a Partlow spin on it,
Yeah, make it some
Mhm.
modern space opera. So,
which I finished reading late last night. As you can kind of figure, authors don't exactly have a lot of free time because not only do we have to write new books, we all have families, and when you're self-employed, you have to be your own accountant, your own this and your own that, and everything like that. So we don't end up with a lot of free time. So I finished it last night, and I absolutely love it. Love Jack. Think he's a great character. I think he did a great job with the technology and the feel of it all. So I mean, that's just my brief thingy there. I absolutely love it. I also love the idea of the modern take on the old serials because the thing that really only makes them not like readable or watchable today is like the stuff that doesn't matter in books, which is special effects. But the idea of the everyman hero in Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, I love that. I love it. In the future, fish out of water, you know, showing the best parts of humanity, the indomitable spirit, that kind of thing. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I think you really nailed it in the book.
I love the old tropes of like the lion men and the ape men and the lizard men. I'm like, I want to come up with a, you know, not scientific, but plausible reason why these things might exist. So that was
Mm.
another thing I had to come up with for the book. And
And yeah, I thought you did a great job. It felt like there wasn't anything in it that said, "Oh, I can't believe this." It was really easy. You made it really easy to suspend disbelief. So I thought you did great.
well, thanks, man. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I look forward to more.
Why haven't you read it, James? I'm just kidding.
Because I needed to jump on it, apparently.
Hopefully, this does not have the curse though of the ones of your books that I read are the ones that don't make it.
Oh,
Because I loved World War Mars, and I really wish that had done better because I love that series.
I loved writing it. It was fun.
We're in a weird place with Amazon right now where it's just so difficult to tell what's going to do well or not do well, or even if things are being accounted for properly. So, but I
Amazon
digress.
seems like more often than not they're broken, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. Maybe it could just be our failure to check the graveyard. But yeah, it does feel like it doesn't work more often than it does. And when it doesn't work, you only get one shot at releasing a book. I do notice that it's got a 5-star rating already, so that's great for Accident Blast.
My thanks to whoever read it that quick and wrote a rating.
Very
I always
nice.
get reviews like it's stupid how fast people read a book. Like because it doesn't actually come out the day you think it comes out. It comes out the night before.
Right.
So the astute reader will get the book like the moment it comes out and start reading it, and you'll wake up to reviews if you're lucky. The
I think it comes out at midnight Eastern time or something like that.
It used to be 10 p.m. Pacific, but it may have changed. Yeah, it's been a while since I released a book that this is going to sound terrible, that I paid attention to the release. Because, when you first start it, you're like hitting that refresh button every 5 minutes. But after a while, like I've had books that released that I forgot I was releasing. And it was like, oh, I see your book's doing really well. I'm like, oh, was that today?
I have to write a newsletter every time I release a book, so I keep up with it. Although I find it when it's not the first book in a series, I find it kind of annoying. Like the people who read the first book already know this thing came out.
Okay, Rick. So it is now in my it's in my e-readers, so I'll get on it.
So
I always love your opening lines. Actually, the cold found every weakness. I don't know. You have really strong opening lines. That's not a digression.
The characters are great too because
Yeah.
I was expecting not to like Bronco because I was thinking you would write him unlikable.
yeah.
And the whole swim team thing was great, by the way. And but I ended up really liking Bronco and feeling bad when he wasn't in the rest of the book because I thought he was kind of cool.
My favorite line was, "You're not going to call me Bronco, are you?" It says, not if I live for a million years."
And then he, spoiler alert, ends up calling him Bronco, but just not to his face. Yeah, but yeah, I love all the pilot stuff, and obviously having been in the Army, I appreciate all the Army references. So, what was your like when you're coming up with like the other planet, and obviously it's Flash Gordon-esque. What were some of the pitfalls you tried to avoid while you were writing to keep it original and not follow too
Well,
closely to Flash Gordon?
there's one thing that you've got to avoid in any science fiction, and that's the desert planet or the ice planet or the jungle planet. So, I mean, I had to come up with a planet with varied geography and also try to make that fit in with a world that's surrounded by a shield that gives it constant light. It has like a constant twilight, 24 hours a day. And so that was a little challenging too. It's like, well, if it's got this shield around it, it really wouldn't have varied weathered patterns around the planet because doesn't have any axial tilt. It doesn't have any variable orbit.
One side
it's
isn't warming while the other side's cooling.
right. It's
Wind.
the same temperature all around. So even the tops of mountains won't have snow, and nobody on this planet will have ever seen snow. So that was really challenging because
Mhm.
there's no nighttime. So scenes that you want to put in night, like people skulking around at night. Well, there's no night. There's
So
scenes
again,
where
it's still like Alaska.
yeah. Well, no, the scenes where
He's
you
in
where
Twilight.
people would say something about the sun beating down. Well, there's no sun.
Unless they get closer to the sun.
Yeah. But even then,
That would freak everybody out.
the
The
shield's
shield,
there to
yeah, yeah,
protect them.
yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, like, obviously, so that made it a challenge to write every scene. And I've run into that things too, where it's like you have a piece of technology and you forget you have it, and then you were like, oh, okay, none of these colloquial things we take for granted would happen because
Yeah.
now I have this technology that would fix that.
And
Um,
also, you run into the problem in our world, in different parts of the world. Everybody's sleeping. Most people are sleeping at night. Most people are working during the day. What do you do on a planet where it's like twilight all day long? When do people work? When do people sleep? That was something I didn't really want to have to think about, but I did.
So the thing that I think about when I hear Flash Gordon, like the next thing that comes to mind is Ming the Merciless. And what I'm showing my ignorance here because I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but tell me about the bad guys in the book.
Well, the bad guy is the Archon Draven,
Okay.
uh, which the planet's name is Dravos. And eventually you find out that it's not because he's a narcissistic a-hole, although he is. Uh, he was named after the planet, not the other way around. Um, but
no
he is
expectations there.
he is thousands of years old, and what people think about him and what you think you know about him, by the way, at the end of the first book may not be exactly true. That's all I'm going to say. But he is thousands of years old, and he is uh, cybernetically and biomechanically augmented that allowed him to live that long. And so he's also incredibly hard to kill.
Mhm.
Not to mention he has like a personal force field so he's not just this frail old guy, who would blow over to stiff breeze like in the movies. He's actually incredibly formidable. And there is a scene in the book where somebody fights him hand to hand, and it doesn't go that well for them. But he is he he has a system where he he's not immune to the needs of a regular person. So he's had wives and children, but he doesn't trust his children. So he winds up exiling them through like a wormhole to other planets and other star systems. At least that's what he tells everybody. A lot of people think maybe he just kills them and makes up the story but when they get old enough that he's worried about him, he gets rid of them.
They go live
That's
on a
classic.
farm in the country.
He doesn't, yeah, they went to live on a farm. He doesn't trust humans, basically. So he surrounds himself with android warriors and these mutated advisors that are, humans with like expanded brains and cybernetic attachments, like technicians that can fix things, but they're not human, and they're considered freaks by everybody. So they're not really a danger to take over the world and start ruling because nobody would accept them. So
Mhm.
he surrounds himself with people who are not a threat.
Until a
Would you
threat comes
rate
along.
this book as easier or more difficult to write than other books you've written?
It's pretty easy. I love it's fun to write. It's one thing that makes it easier is the main characters are all from the present day.
Mhm.
So I don't have to invent, you know, uh, colloquialisms and references to another culture that doesn't exist yet. I can just talk, like make references to movies they would have always seen or music. That's easy. When you got a book that the characters are from the present or like in Taken to the Stars, my past, that's easier to write. So Jack Schaefer, Lisa Cantrell, and Eric Mannheim, they're all easy to get inside their heads.
Mhm.
Jack Schaefer is the pilot. Um, Eric Mannheim is the Dr. Zarkov type of character, except he's not like an engineer or inventor like Zarkov. He is a linguist slash archaeologist who has undergraduate degrees in chemistry and physics just because he was bored. He's really brilliant.
And he's been off his meds for a while.
Yes, he's an older man. He's like almost 70, and he's German American, and he was the one who translated the text in this ancient city that they dug up in Antarctica and found out about the world reaver. That's what the people in Antarctica, the civilization that used to be there and is now buried in ice under Antarctica. That's what they called Dravos when it came there, the world reaver.
I like that you used there's that, I don't know if you've seen it, you probably have, that special on Netflix, Ancient Mysteries or whatever, where the guy posits the idea that maybe there was a civilization before our civilization.
Oh, because old maps and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the old maps and the civilization existed before 12,000 years ago. And I love that you make some references to that, Rick. The civilization before our civilization, that we just would have no idea if they ever existed or not without finding something concrete.
Well, in this series, there were a lot of those civilizations because every time they got to the point where they might reach out into space and be a threat, Dravos came back and wiped them out.
So I don't recall exactly, but do you have like in your head, do you have like an orbit of Dravos, like how long and where else it visits?
Um, Not really. I mean, it has to be pretty far. It's probably out into the Kuiper Belt.
Well, I mean, like I know it visits the Earth, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the speed at which it always moves.
Yeah. But I basically Draven doesn't trust people and doesn't want interactions with the Earth people. So that's one of the reasons he wipes them out is he doesn't want them interfering with his plan. So he doesn't visit very often, only when he needs something.
Earth
But
women.
I was saying that Mannheim was the linguist slash archaeologist, and Lisa Cantrell is kind of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory if he wasn't autistic, sort of. He was,
And respected engineering.
yeah. She's like a wonderkind who graduated high school at 14 or whatever, and got her postgraduate degrees at 18, 19, and has a doctorate in high energy physics and a degree in engineering, and was working for NASA. And then she, being naive and not having a lot of social experience because she, graduated high school so early, she married the wrong guy who was a coworker, and he kind of screws her over when they're working together on a multi-billion-dollar space probe for NASA, and it goes wrong. If you think of like that probe they sent to Mars that burned up because
Broke up on, yeah. during the landing.
because one calculation was supposed to be in metric and it was in imperial, that kind of thing. And he blamed her, and she got blackballed from NASA, and then she wound up working for Mannheim on this spaceship. So she's like she's the hard scientist, the engineer. He's cultural linguist type, and Jack is the soldier.
The helicopter pilot.
Well, yeah, but he was in the army.
Yeah, I mean, he was, but
He's very competent.
He's very competent as a pilot.
He's 160 soar, so obviously he's really good at what he does. You don't get there by. But I mean, like, it's not like he was a grunt. Is what I'm saying. It's like he was Delta or something.
But he got to fly Delta around a lot.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the little bird. I'm sure Lisa and Rachel will be ecstatic when they read the book.
Yeah,
because they're all about the 160th.
Well, I love the. I once saw at an air show they had a little bird with the 3-barreled 50 caliber machine guns.
Oh yeah, the tri-barrel.
Those things are so cool.
Yeah, they are. The what's funny is having being from Alaska, right? I felt like your description of Alaska was pretty spot on. From the way the towns are and how it feels to be there, the fact that everybody fishes, and even like your description of how the fishing in the rivers went. I thought that was all really, really authentic. The sound of the de Havilland Beaver is so burned into my brain. Like every day, my entire life, from the time I was in the fourth grade when we moved there until I left, that is a sound you hear day in and day out. 7 days a week of that plane taking off. So it was neat reading your interpretation of that and knowing what I know. And like I thought it was just super accurate. So well done on your research there.
I did a lot of research into the king salmon there. I've been there once, but it was just like landed, got in the float plane, and took off.
Well, what's funny is like when you're up there, people don't realize that there's five different kinds of salmon,
Mhm.
and the further north you go, you get different. Like if you're in Ketchikan, where I'm from, you get a lot of pink salmon, and the king salmon in Ketchikan can be like 30 pounds or whatever. But they don't get like really really big until they get further up north. And but the pink salmon, the further north they go, the fatter and less tasty they are. So, but most of them spawn in Southeast Alaska. Pink salmon, most of them spawn in Southeast Alaska. It's the king and the
Silver.
silver that you want to go further north for, and you get the really good, really big ones up there.
The
So,
only one I ever caught was silver. It was on a deep sea fishing cruise. Me and my son, between the two of us, caught like 12 silver salmon and maybe six rockfish.
I remember when I
Oh,
joined the army, rockfish are actually tasty. When I joined the
very
army,
good.
um, I remember telling somebody about when I was 14 catching a king salmon, in Ketchikan, and it was like I was like it was small, it was like 30, 40 pounds, and I didn't realize at the time that like down here that is an enormous fish, right? In the lower 48, that is just a giant fish. So everybody thought I was just being a braggart and a jerk. But I really didn't know because I've never really been into fishing that much. And in Alaska, it's just really easy to catch a huge fish.
Mhm.
My uncle came up to visit once, and my dad took him to a resort that's on the backside of Ketchikan, and they were fishing, and he caught a king salmon and pulled out of the water, and the guide was there because it was that kind of resort, and my uncle's just over the moon because it's the biggest fish he's ever caught, and the guide's like, would you like a picture with it? And he's like, picture? I'm gonna mount it on my wall.
Huh.
And the guide said, oh sir, I'm sorry, it's too small, you can't keep it, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Biggest fish he ever caught, and it wasn't, it was too small to keep. So gives you an idea about Alaska.
But yeah, I actually wouldn't have minded doing more in Alaska, but you know, I had to get to the planet.
Well, I,
And
I thought I liked your setup because you spent enough time getting to know the characters that I felt like it wasn't rushed at all. A lot of times you'll read a book and they're so eager to get to whatever the inciting incident is, whatever their idea is, that they just rush through the beginning. And as an author, as you guys know, it's pretty easy to do that because you're excited about whatever your idea is too. You want to get to that idea, but the setup is so important. It's what brings us into the characters. It's what makes us like them. You have to experience them in the normal world before you, in this case, literally put them in a different world. Because if you don't experience them in the normal world, then you don't really, like, the rest of it doesn't really feel like that big of a difference. Because 1 second, it would be like
Right.
starting Star Wars where Luke goes to hire Han Solo. You wouldn't know that he was a farm boy, and it wouldn't matter if you
right.
did it in flashbacks because you've already met him as the pseudo action hero.
Yeah,
So
I
getting to
think
know
that that's
Jack,
that's a big um, temptation,
it is.
particularly in military science fiction, is to just throw the characters into action without giving a sense of what they are in real life.
I mean, listen, there is a lot of truth to the advice in media res starting the action. But action doesn't mean violence. It doesn't mean combat. It doesn't mean whatever your story is. There's a lot of ways to draw people in instantly without there being um things blowing up and you meeting the alien princess right away. So you really need that setup. The more setup you do, the better the setup you do in the beginning, the more the end pays off, and your end really pays off. So it was nice to get to know Jack in Alaska as a pilot, kind of burned out, you know, pilot, before we got to see him be like an action hero.
Well,
You know,
and also he's kind of burned out on life.
and I
Yeah.
mean, I've been known to do long setups, and so I really appreciate it. I really appreciated that. Getting 5 or 6 chapters before he even meets the doctor and the doctors.
When quite often people jump to an action scene, and that's kind of the easy button, like we've talked about before. Like maintaining tension as you build character is the thing that pulls people through the story as you layer stuff on. And if you just drop a firefight on it, like, okay, but what does that really say? Is it saying anything about the character of the story? So it's always something to think about.
And it's also different when you've been around for a while, because like someone reading Rick's books, I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what percentage of people reading your books have never read a book by you before. But there's a 50-50 chance that whoever's reading your book has read a book by you before when you're at Rick's point. And so they are willing to give him a lot more leeway than
Yeah.
they would say a first person picking up a book for the first time.
Well,
Not that you really
especially
need that
if you're
leeway because you did it great.
especially if you're like reading the sample chapter in Amazon,
Yeah.
But
Well, I wish Amazon would give us the numbers for how many people actually read that sample chapter.
that would be nice. But
Because I
yeah,
don't think it'd be
there's
very
certain
high.
things I had to change about the classic Flash Gordon because um, I couldn't make Dale Arden characters just like this helpless female that needs to be rescued over and over again. That doesn't fly. And I also I it was pretty clear in the original series and in like the cartoon that she was much younger than Flash, which I had to age her up a little bit and make her competent in something. Because not gonna it was very much part of the 1930s thing where a woman character had to be there to get rescued and be the romantic interest, you know.
Well,
I actually found, I'll link them when we do the episode upload, because I've found the 30s YouTube serials, and I'm trying to see if the cartoon is on there now, so we can add all this stuff as
The cartoon
background.
is on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll find that too then.
well, you can still have, the beautiful female characters who need to be rescued, but they can also be competent in,
Well, she
um,
eventually does need to be rescued, but it's like they're all in a position where they need to be rescued.
you just have to give everybody their moment to shine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people need to understand, characters are there for a reason. You don't just have, I mean, in real life, you can have people who are just haphazardly here. But in a book, every character is there for a reason, and they fill some sort of role or some sort of need for the story. And I didn't feel like any of your characters were extraneous. I mean, sometimes you'll read a book and you'll be like, why is this person here? What good are they? And someone will tell you, like, well, in book 9, well, yeah, I'm not reading book 9. I'm reading book 1, And so I felt like you always do a really good job with those characters.
I did have one problem with keeping Mannheim um, relevant to the story because Mannheim came along and it was there because he could translate. He knew other languages. He knew the language that ancient civilization spoke. But when they get to the planet, there is a method that they use for translation that doesn't require him. It was required by the plot because I can't have this whole book go by with only Mannheim able to translate. And I mean, it takes months to learn a new language that with um, no precedence. So I had to do a shortcut for that because this thing takes place in the space of maybe a week or two. So
You couldn't have
that to
AI
me,
just make it up as it went along.
Yeah. But so
Hijinks ensued.
I had to come up with reasons why Mannheim was still relevant when he wasn't needed as a translator, and that was a challenge.
What's funny is I didn't feel like there was any kind of transition for that at all. It never occurred to me that, you know, he was irrelevant. So you handled it really well. You handled that
I had
really
to lean more on his expertise in ancient civilizations and knowing how other societies might think.
What's funny is by the time you're in the midway of the book, and this is pretty much any book, you remember like the broad strokes at the beginning, but you don't remember the specific details. So it just didn't occur to me, I guess, that like, oh, he was a linguist. What good is he now? Because he was always active and useful, throughout the story. So,
When you probably
is
like
there
him
any
by that
characters
point. So
are there any characters you wanted to add that you didn't get to add, or you added that you ended up taking out?
I never take characters out, but if I could have added another character, hmm. Well, I mean, if you go to the old Flash Gordon, you know about the King of the Hawkmen, the guy
Yeah.
from the movie, and he's in the cartoons too. I did not have him in there because the Hawkmen are literally hawk. They're part bird. They're the pilots. They call the AVEX, and they are not they're not nice, and they mostly work for the bad guy. So I did not have a chance to delve into their society at all, and I still haven't in book 3. So sorry, spoiler alert, but there's no Hawkman side story in books 2 or 3.
Well, there's always a possibility for book 4. I really liked the avians. I thought they were that was a neat,
AVEX.
it was the AVX. I thought it was a neat little take on them because I was expecting these sort of friendly, you know, usually when people do bird people, they're all curious and inquisitive and friendly or whatever. These guys are all like, I will kill you and drink your blood. And I really like that. I thought that was cool. You did a good job of turning things on their head, so to speak, of
Did you like the Varkari, by the way?
Who?
The
Sorry.
Varkari.
Yes. Oh, there isn't anything in the book that I didn't like. And I'd have to work hard to find something that I didn't like. So
For most people who haven't read it, Varkari are basically giant humanoid vampire bats.
yeah, scary as heck. And I would be, um, my brain is totally not working right now. I don't generally look for things not to like in books. So when I don't write reviews because, well, as authors, you don't want to write a review of somebody else's book that you didn't like, for one. And especially as you get more successful, your words have more weight to readers. So if somebody saw me reviewing a book negatively, it would be more impactful to that author than if the reverse was true. But if I were to write a review of the book, I would definitely highlight the characters and the world building as two of my favorite aspects. Was it hard to come up with all the different parts of that world, all the different species and things like that?
It was hard to come up with good reasons for them to exist. I mean, you're bringing in stuff that was written because it sounded good and was like a combination of fantasy and science fiction, like um, I don't remember what his name was in the movies or the cartoons. The Robin Hood looking guy, which in my book is Prince Wrangle. In
Oh, I thought he seemed familiar. Okay, yeah.
But he's not Robin Hoodish. His kingdom is like an exiled kingdom that used to run the whole planet, and now their survivors are pushed deep into the wilderness and have to live kind of a semi-medieval lifestyle to avoid attracting attention from Draven. Because if they built like a real technological society, he would bomb it out of existence. He tolerates them because they're a long way away and they're living like medieval peasants. So, but by the way, did you get the Alaska reference in his name?
Yeah. I've been there.
Wrangle of
Yeah.
Elias.
Yeah. No, it's so funny is we were watching Pacific Rim the other day,
Mhm.
and part of that movie supposedly takes place in Sitka, Alaska. And I was like, oh, hey, this is someone wrote this or filmed this who's never been to Alaska because Sitka ain't that big, and neither's Wrangell. And so, yeah, no, I got that. That's great.
nothing in Alaska.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
I mean,
mentioned
they're islands,
science
man. They're
fiction.
tiny islands. So, sorry.
I opened the Target store in North Anchorage, and so I spent about
Oh,
6 months in Anchorage and drove to Fairbanks and got to see Denali. So all the stuff about
Mainland
people
Alaska
fishing in
is
the rivers.
huge, but
Yeah,
Southeast Alaska, the islands are tiny.
huge and empty. But so you mentioned science fiction fantasy, and that it feels like, a lot of times it can be easy to get sucked into trying to explain things too much as part of the world building. Is there like, how did you balance that line between keeping it fun and fantastical, but also, if you were thinking about, okay, where in the Kuiper Belt was it, or how does this planet work, or things like that?
It depends on whose point of view I'm telling the story from. Like
Hmm.
Jack's not a scientist. Only thing he knows about science he learned from like playing science fiction RPGs when he was in Afghanistan and had nothing else to do. Um, so from his point of view, this is all weird, but not impossible. From Lisa's point of view as an engineer and a physicist, she is constantly filled with frustration and consternation. Like, how did they make this stuff work? I mean, how could this possibly work according to laws of physics? And how did they develop it? So I only talk about that when I'm doing it from the point of view of a character who would know that it's kind of weird and wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting way to do it because you can give different perspectives on how the story works that way
I know Dr.
and
Mayhem
contrast that.
it seemed like his favorite phrase was "That's impossible," because there was a
His
lot of
phrase is "Good Lord."
that too. But there was a lot of "That's impossible," and I hadn't thought about that how you did that because you're right. Jack really a lot of times he was just like whatever it works, and he just accepts it for what he sees. Like when he takes over flying the ship. Um, which I thought was hilarious because she's like, "You don't know how to fly this," and he's like, "Either do you."
They have jury rigged the ship's controls with video game like flight controls.
You should have used Thrustmaster. I'm just saying, you should have just said it was the Thrustmaster A10 Warthog stick. Jack would have known what that was because he was into gaming. Just saying. And that's what
There's
everybody in
still
Hollywood
time.
uses. Every time you see a joystick on a spaceship in Hollywood, it's a Thrustmaster joystick.
Is it? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
every time. It's the Warthog. It's not just any Thrustmaster either. It's their replica of the A10 Thunderbolt 2 Warthog.
Hmm.
And it's super recognizable. And once you see it, you're just like, oh, hey, this is a ship 500 years in the future, and it's got Thrustmaster joystick on it because they couldn't be bothered to make their own. They
It
just
was a
went and
great
bought one.
design. Why
What
Hey,
did
it
if
you
it
do
works, man.
it's like cars. Whenever you see a car, and then the director's about your age, and you see a car that you loved growing up, the reason that car is in the movie is so the director can drive it home. Same thing with the joysticks. The reason they're $500 each, and the reason they're in that movie is that somebody in the props department wants to take it home and have it be theirs. So
One thing I struggle with in science fiction is everybody wants the cliche, the trope of the pilot, wrestling with the controls, against the. But if you're on a spaceship, those controls are not connected to anything physical. It's all
Yeah.
electronics. It's all going to be, you know, maneuvering thrusters or whatever, and you're not going to be wrestling with the controls because if you jerk the controls violently, you'll just break them.
Hmm. Did you
yeah,
do your math correctly?
there's no pneumatics or hydraulics connecting your control to anything like it was
Yeah,
in like World War II. It's all fly by
but
wire.
everybody wants the World War II fighter pilot experience.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good contrast to have two characters like that because the scientists will get totally held up by the fact that they can't explain anything, whereas the person who doesn't know will just jump in and do it, and then you can try and figure it out later, which probably help them solve some problems.
Yeah, like when Jack gets
So
on a blaster on that planet, it's like this is a gun. It's a blaster, like in Star Wars. And Lisa is like, does this fire a particle beam? Some sort of plat? And it's like, just shoot it.
it makes things go boom.
Yeah,
All right, so you mentioned book three. How many are planned in this series so far?
there's going to be a minimum of six because we have a contract with an audiobook publisher for six. So uh,
Nice.
we're going to do at least six. I am planning on making like every 3 books its own arc though. So at the end of book 3, there's going to be an arc that ends, and at the end of book 6, there'll be another arc that ends. And if we're making loads of money on it and we can afford to keep writing after book 6, then there'll be another arc. So you
No,
don't have to
really.
worry about like being hung out to dry, and not having a satisfying ending, because there will be one.
I sure hope so because I'm not satisfying any part, but I hope there's more than six because this is a series that could easily have legs and go on for a while. Amazon doesn't screw up the launch.
Wait till you read book 3.
Well, what's funny is, and I've said this before, I don't often read past book one because who has the time? Um, but I also have an Audible subscription. So while I physically read book one, I might listen to two and three, just because I always need something to listen to when I'm on a road trip. And we're driving to Boise soon, so there's that.
Boise gets a mention in the book. I don't know if you noticed
I
that.
did. It does. His
It's
ex-wife's boyfriend or something, right?
Yeah, his ex-wife's new boyfriend she lives in
From
Boise with him.
Yeah. I wondered if you were like, oh, hey, Jeff's from Boise. He'll like that.
Yeah.
Or I hate Boise,
Yeah.
but no.
Well,
I've never been to Boise.
it's not bad.
Oh, really?
It's not what you think. Whatever picture you have in your head of Idaho, that's not the actual picture. And people are often surprised when they go there. I know
I always pictured a mini Denver.
no. Well, any college town, there are similarities between any college town, and Boise obviously has, Boise State University, which is a big university. So there are similarities to every college town, but it's a nice little city, and it's even though it's got 250,000 people in it, it still feels like a small town. And
I will
It
never
has
forget
beautiful
Boise.
mountains.
I will never forget Boise State for the blue turf, man. 'Cause
Yeah, I
I love
toured
I
that
like the team,
stadium.
but I can't watch their games at home because I think the color's off on my TV and it's constantly bugs
It
me.
it vibrates when you look at it in person too. It's like it does something to your eyes. I don't know what it is.
well, I have an easy solution for that. I don't watch college sports or any sports really
That's
anymore.
not an option though. So
Well, Boise
But there
State is on
are
the cutting edge of stadium security, so that's why I got to go see their stadium. Um,
uh,
yeah,
but the
the
one
blue
when
the
it
blue
comes to
turf is a security measure to disorient would-be attackers.
it makes it very easy to see people running on the field. That's for sure.
when which leads me to a good question. When you're coming up with locations for your books, do you pick them out of a hat, or do you have a purpose for why you mention where you mention?
You mean like Earth locations?
Yeah, Earth locations. Like
I
there's you picked a very specific town in Alaska. I was just curious if there was a reason for that, or if it
well,
was
he's a
just you
bush
picked it out.
pilot, running people for charters, for fishing, and I figured King Salmon was a great place to set that. And as far as the Inuit village that they go fishing near, I just looked in a like a diameter a certain distance away from Anchorage and said, I need something that's close enough that this guy could fly there for conceivably for a fishing tour. So
Mhm. Where do you do most of your research? Is it on Wikipedia or just kind of all over the place?
uh, I used to do lots of Googling,
Yeah.
and now that we have like Chat GPT, I say, what are the villages within this mileage diameter of king salmon, and it gives me a list. And then I'm like, well, which of these villages is on a river? And then it gives me another list. And I'm like, do people go fishing on this river? You know?
And then you go make sure it actually exists.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
then I Google that village in the river, and I see pictures of it, and I see people fishing on it, and it gives me like an idea of what to write.
Yeah,
I always use
that's cool.
if I have a location in mind on Earth, anyways, and it's contemporary, I always use Google Maps and I go into satellite mode and I zoom in and I look around. It's how I find locations for like my superhero stuff when I was writing that, the coffee shops and the restaurants I'd go to and you know But yeah, the chat GPT and Grok really are a hugely beneficial resource these days. Well, Rick,
Well,
tell us when the second book's coming out and where people can find it and what to
the
expect.
second book, I believe, is coming out in January. Let me double check because the first book just came out yesterday, and the second one is scheduled for no February 1st. Um, it's for sale on Amazon. It's technically by J.N. Chaney and Rick Partlow, because J.N. Chaney is the variant guy who okays all the plots and characters and stuff and says, yes, this is what you want to write. Go write that. So I wrote that.
Cheney is kind of like Daw back in the day, or Jim Bain, I guess.
Or James
But
Patterson.
James Patterson. Well, I don't know. But anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out. And if you have not got Accidental Astronaut, I just bought it while the show was happening, so I know what I'm going to be digging into here shortly.
It is
Um,
also available in audiobook already, if you prefer those.
yep. And the thing I'll say about Rick is he never leaves you hanging when it comes to a series. You can always trust that that story will get wrapped up, which is a pretty big thing to say in today's publishing environment. So I appreciate that. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. Check out the Discord if you have not, and please subscribe to the show if you also haven't done that. So we will see you next time. Later.
Salute.